Okay, so in the last video, we looked at creating getters and setters in a class. And in this video, I'm going to show you how we can do the same thing using a constructor function. And then I'm going to show you how we can do it using an object literal, because you can have getters and setters with an object literal. So we'll start off with the constructor function. So I'm going to do the same exact thing we did in the last video, where we have a person with a first name and a last name. So this will take in a first name and a last name, and I'm going to set this dot underscore first name for the name of the property. It's going to get set to the first name that's passed in, and then same with the last name, because I want the getter to be dot first name without the underscore. So we'll say last name. Now, to create a getter and a setter, we have to use the define property on the object constructor. So if I say object dot define property, this actually takes in three things. It takes in the object itself, which is going to be this. It takes in the property that we want to add a getter and a setter for, which in this case I want it to be called first name. And then it takes an object with a getter and setter function. So let's create the getter. So we just say get function, and then for now I'm just going to return this dot underscore first name. So I'm returning the property inside of the getter. All right, and then for the setter, we're just going to do set and create a function here and say this is actually going to take in a value. A setter is always going to take in a single value, and we're going to set this dot underscore first name equal to that value. Okay, so now we have a getter and a setter for the first name. Let's do the same with the last name. So again, we need another object define. So I'm just going to grab that and copy it, paste that in here, and then let's change this, this, and this to last name. All right, so now we should be able to instantiate a new person object. Let's say person1 equals new person constructor. We're going to pass in, I'm going to use lowercase, so I'm going to say John Doe, and I'm using lowercase because I want to show you we can make it return uppercase when we use a getter. So let's console log, and we want the person1 dot first name, not underscore first name, because that would be accessing the property directly, which we don't want to do. We want to get it through the getter. So that's going to be first name because of this. All right, and then if we want the last name, we can simply do person1 dot last name, and we get John Doe, and both are lowercase at the moment. Now let's say I want these to be uppercase, so we could do a couple things. I think what I want to do is add the capitalized first function to the person prototype. So just to show you how we can do that, we can say person dot prototype dot, and we'll call this capitalize first, set that to a function, and that's going to take in a value. Okay, and then we want to return from this function value dot char at 0, and we want to uppercase that first letter, so it's 2 uppercase, and then we want to just add on to that the rest of this string, which will be value dot slice from the first letter. All right, now we can come up here to the getters, and let's return this with, and we can use this since we're in the person constructor function. We can say this dot capitalize first, and just surround that, and then we'll go up here and we'll do the same thing. We'll say this dot capitalize first. We could put it on the setter as well, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to add it to the getter. And now if I save, you'll see that we get John and Doe both with uppercase, starting with uppercase letters. Now if we wanted to add a full name getter, a getter and setter, we'll just do a getter. So to do that, we're going to just copy this, and let's say we want this to be for full name, and I'm going to get rid of the setter. And let's return. Now, what's cool here is that I don't have to use capitalize first because I can actually use the other getters from this getter. So if I say this dot first name, since I don't have an underscore here, that means I'm accessing the getter of first name, which is already using capitalize first, right? So if I say return this first name, and then we'll just add space, and then we'll say this dot last name, which also has the capitalize. If I do that, and then I come down and try to access dot full name, save that, and we get John Doe, and both the first and last name are capitalized. All right, so that is how we can use getters and setters inside of a constructor function. Let me just put a comment up here. So this is in a constructor function. Now I'm going to show you how we can do this. Let's see, we'll just go right here. Let's say with an object literal. So I'm going to go ahead and create, I'll call this one person obj, so person object. I'm going to set it to an object literal, and I'm going to set a property of name and set that to Jane. Because remember, with an object literal, it's just one single object. It's not like a constructor function, which is a blueprint where we can create many objects. So I'm going to set the name in here. I'm sorry, this should be first name, and let's do underscore last name. Okay, so those are the properties. Now to set a getter, all we have to do is say get, and then whatever we want the getter to be, let's say first name, and that's going to be a method. Let's see, why do I have an error here? Oh, I need to have a comma there. So first name, this is a getter, so I'm going to return. Now I can actually use this prototype capitalized first if I want. I can say person dot, we should be able to say person dot prototype dot capitalize first. I don't necessarily know if I would do it this way, but we can. So let's say this underscore first name. So that's the getter. Then for the setter, we simply say set last name. So the way we do it with we do have to have a comma here. The way we do it with an object literal is similar to how we do it in a class. We don't have to use the object define. So let's set this. This is going to take in a value, and then we're going to not return. We're going to set this dot underscore, no, what are we doing? First name to the value that's passed in. So that's our first name getter and setter. So what I'll do is copy both of those. Actually, this needs a comma. So I'll grab those, and then let's do the same thing. Oh, wait a minute. I did last name here. So this should be first name, and then this, and this should be last name. Okay, I think I got it. So now I'm going to come down here, and what I'm going to do is actually create a variable called person2, and I'm going to set that, and I'm going to use object create here. So I can say object.create and pass in the object literal, which is person obj, and then I should be able to use it just like I used person1. So if I could actually just grab these and just change those to person2. And if we save that, you can see we get Jane Doe, and both have the uppercase. So we're using these getters and setters. And again, if I wanted to add a full name getter, I would just come in here and say get full name. And I can use the getters once again. So I'll return from this. We'll say this dot first name, no underscore, because we're using the getter. We're not doing the direct property. So the getter has the uppercase, right? Capitalize first. And then let's add on to that a space, and then add on to that this dot last name, which is also using the getter. Okay, and then we should be able to just go ahead and access the full name, just like a property. And there we go, we get Jane Doe. So these are just two more ways of doing what we did in the last video with classes. Now, some people get annoyed with this, that there's so many damn ways to do the same thing. But it's a lot of it is just preference. Some people will say, don't do it this way, you know, but most people just think that their way is the right way. And you have to figure that out as you move up as a developer. You'll understand that a lot of this stuff, there is no right way. There's just preference, and you'll find your preference and you'll find your groove and you'll stick with it, and things will get easier and much less confusing. All right, so that's it. Let's move on to the next video.